Ladies and gentlemen, it's been 5 months since Season 2 has come out. That means I've had 5 months to play Lidia in Season 2, and this video is going to be talking about my thoughts now that Season 2 has gone on a little bit. We've been able to play with the new moves, all of the new things that Lidia has, and talk to you about how I'm feeling about Lidia now in the current season. Spoilers, I like what they've done a lot with her. I think that she is, in short, a lot more interesting to play in Season 2. I think that they've expanded on her gameplay in a way that I think is resoundingly good. I think that they touched the things that did need to be touched. They did overtune some stuff, and of course we'll talk about that. Not everything is great, but the overall direction that they went with the character is positive, and I feel like I really have to have more of a grasp on how to actually play the overall character instead of relying on one really strong thing that she does and repeating that ad nauseum until I win all of my games. And because of that, Lidia in Season 2, they did a really great job with her, and I even told Michael Murray to his face at Combo Breaker basically what I'm telling you now, that I think Lidia is a lot of fun in Season 2 and that they did a really good job with her. Especially looking back to Season 1, while I think that she has been nerfed quite substantially and she's worse than she was in Season 1, the overall direction that they've taken her has made her a lot more fun to play, a lot more interesting, a lot more difficult, and overall is to me a good sign that they have the right idea of what they want to do with this character and how they're going to change her in the future. We're going to start by talking about the nerfs, and then we're going to go to her other changes that I think are bad, and then we'll talk about the changes that are kind of the good changes, and then the things that I think are really great in terms of balance. Just because these things are good in terms of balance doesn't necessarily mean that I believe that they were good changes for Lidia overall. So let's get into it with the first major nerf, which is chip damage. And this was a universal change, but I believe, in my opinion, it hurt Lidia more than any other character in the game. Yes, the main focus was that Jin and Bears had ridiculous chip damage, but if you got hit by these moves that did this chip damage, it didn't mean that you died, right? It didn't mean that, and they could only be done while at the wall under certain conditions. Lidia's entire game plan, in my eyes, the optimal way to play her, revolved around chip damage. And this was such a resounding thing at Bandai Namco that a lot of Lidia's Season 2 changes revolved around focusing on this mechanic of Lidia being able to deal chip damage. Whether this was intentional or not, I don't know, but Hammer Tech obviously is something that made the rounds within the Lidia sphere when I invented it, and somehow that made it to Bandai Namco, and they focused in on that idea. And so in Season 2, Lidia was absolutely busted at the start because of that. But since the universal changes to chip damage, it has hurt Lidia immensely. If I do the standard Hammer Tech route now, oops, sorry, let me go to 3 stacks real quick so I can do this properly. So if I try doing the full Hammer Tech sequence, boop, boop, you can see it only does 59 damage, which you might say, like, looking at this is insane. I'm going to show you a clip right now of my video when talking about Hammer Tech at first and how much chip damage it did in Season 1. And as you're watching this, or if it's already done, I haven't planned this out, so I haven't timed it, you'll see that the difference in chip damage is monumental. And so the problem at the start of Season 1 was that Lidia's chip damage was so strong that all of these new moves that caused Dre health deletion were actually, in my opinion, completely irrelevant, because by the time you were done stacking up that chip damage on the opponent, they were already dead. So the chip damage deletion mattered, it didn't matter at all. And so this is simultaneously a major nerf for Lidia, and one of the reasons, in fact, the main reason why I think that she's weaker now than in Season 1 is because that this was her main way of being able to deal damage to a defensive opponent because she doesn't have very strong lows. The thing is, in Season 1, it didn't really matter that Lidia didn't have very strong lows because of the chip damage. What you did is you just play neutral, you got the heat engager, you utilized hammer attack, brought their health down to around where rage is, and then one mix-up, play neutral a little bit, and then they're dead. Now you can't do that anymore because you simply can't do enough gray health damage, which, you know, again, it makes Lidia a lot weaker because they remove the thing that she was the best at in the game. And without having the thing that she was the best at in the game, that's of course going to make her weaker, but it makes her a lot more interesting, and I think it's overall a good change because chip damage is still something to think about, and it is still good that she can delete gray health off of combos at 3 stacks because of course heat engagers will give the opponent gray health back. And if we just do a standard combo here with Lidia, sorry, I have my second monitor on, so it's a little bit laggy when I have it on, but I need it up for my notes, so just please forgive me for that. Oh my god, this is going to be a bit of a pain. I'm just gonna do the standard combo route here. So, I mean, you can see that, like, if I do this, it's 38 chip damage before the deletion. I do forward, 4-3, and it's gone. And, you know, I think that a lot of people still, even though this game has been out for a year and a half, don't quite understand the dynamic of chip damage and how to play around it and how to utilize your heat engages to recover that gray health and all of these other things that go in the gray health, because frankly, the mechanic, in my opinion, is a failed mechanic, and it's way too convoluted and hard to follow in a real game to understand, or what's the other word? Appreciate, that's the word I'm looking for, the role that chip damage plays in a game, and it effectively, in a way, I think makes Lidia have a higher health pool than other characters, because even though she isn't healing, she is making the opponent's health, when she's at 3 stacks, relatively smaller to her own, because they aren't able to recover that health, as frequently as Lidia is. So I think overall it's a good change, but it definitely makes her weaker. And I don't think that any of the other changes, when you line it up to what other characters got in this season, being the person that has labbed everything for a video, I would know. I do know very well, like, all of the balance changes out throughout Season 2. I don't think that they stack up to a point where it outweighs the again, the thing that she was the best at in the game just being taken from her. So that's why I think she's weaker. I think that, again, I thought she was top 10 in Season 1. You know, thinking back on it, the more I think about it, I think that there's still this thing in the back of my head that makes me think that maybe she was even, like, top 7. Just looking at it in hindsight because of how ridiculous that chip damage and the sequencing was and everything. But now, you know, I think that she's still a top tier character. I think she's really good, but she's inconsistent in tournament, as always. You play against people that know the matchup, and it's it makes it a lot tougher, and you have to be a really skilled Lidia player to be able to make it work. Not anyone that just plays Lidia as like a pocket character is going to be able to make her work against really strong players who know the matchup really well. And, you know, you don't have to believe me, ask Tetsu, because he's basically said that exact same thing. And really, any person that plays Lidia will tell you the same thing. The only people that won't are people that don't play the character at all and have no idea how she actually functions. So, you know, I think that it's overall a good change. It makes her weaker, but it emphasizes her skill ceiling more and really, like, getting a firm knowledge over, like, a firm grasp on knowing the character, I should say, rather than just sticking to, like, 1 or 2 things, like, you know, the 50-50 stance mix-up, which we all know at this point doesn't work. And, yeah, and overall, I think that's really good. So other smaller things that got changed as well. Oki. So I made a video before Season 2 came out talking about Lidia's biggest Season 2 buff, which was from crouch down forward 3 at the wall, and I still believe that to be true. Now, it's not her biggest buff by any means, and a lot of that is how they actually changed how Wake Up works in Season 2. And you know, that's something that we'll talk about. But, you know, from crouch down forward 3 is still like an amazing move to be able to use after a heat engager, if I actually start at the wall here. And I don't think people use this move enough. This move is like, in my opinion, Lydia's best low. It's insane what you get out of it. But the problem with Lydia's Oki is that screwdriver attack, which is something Rainbow Neos came up with, doesn't really work anymore. And the reason why, if I can remember how to do this properly, again, this is a universal change, but I think it affects Lidia more than, maybe not the most of every character, but more than a lot of characters. The problem is that when you did screwdriver attack, it's been so long since I've done it, I can't even remember the sequencing of it because I just don't think it's very good anymore. But like when you did this, let me go down to 0 stack so it doesn't do that camera zoom, and don't worry, we will talk about that because, oh man, I hope they revert that. So when we do this, right, and then we do the down 1 here to go for screwdriver. If they don't tech, then it does that. But the problem is now, if the opponent is holding backwards at any point when down 1+2 hits, or before down 1+2 hits, and you try doing down 1+2 again, then they will be considered in a standing state and you will get down 1. Which affects her Oki a lot. It means that screwdriver tech doesn't really work anymore. Now, if the opponent does a quick backslide like before, and we do something like this, and then boop, then you can still do this. But the issue becomes that when you, like, again, you do your whole combo, if they stay on the ground and then they get hit by it, then you kind of lose your Oki completely. And because of that, it's not as effective because of the whole, like, you could do this, and then, I mean, you can still do this into micro dash down too, but you see, it doesn't, like, that doesn't work anymore. So it makes Lydia's Oki quite a bit worse. But Lydia's Oki is still really good. It's just, it's nerfed overall from Season 1, and it's still insane if you can believe it. More nerfs. 1+2. So, listen, this is the smoking gun that tells me that they know about hammer tech, and they directly buffed hammer tech, which in a way means I win. Like, this is my move in a lot of ways. And they killed this move. Hammer tech is dead in Season 2. Not just for the chip damage, but also because, like, between the scaling on Heaven and Earth 1, which is another thing that got nerfed that we'll kind of talk about here as well, along with the 1+2 damage being buffed and then nerfed, and now with the heat engager changes, you know, it's like this move is just unusable now. Straight up. You cannot use this move. Even before in Season 1, if you did heat engager into 1+2, a fast one here could be interrupted with a 14 frame move. Now, because you're only +9 instead of +17, it can be reacted to with anything under the sun. And that means you just have better options. You know, it means it's way too risky. If they throw a hop kick, you get launched. You know, you can't just do a quick one and get it to work. You would have to, like, commit to something else, and because of the changes now, which we'll talk about, like, later on in the video, with Lidia actually being one of, like, 2 or 3 characters in the game now that gets an unavoidable situation after heat engager. That's plus for her. Like 1+2 just like doesn't function as a move anymore, and I think a lot of this comes from this whole, like, again, content creators talking about bullshit that they know nothing about, because people were complaining about Lydia's damage at the beginning of Season 2 because they would turn on 3 stacks, player counter hit, player rage, 1 HP, hold on, player health 1 HP, player recover limit 1, and they would also key charge, don't forget about that, and then they would go in the heat, and then we would 1+2, and then we would do some bullshit combo, oh my god, where's my back input? It wouldn't be a Sesujin video. And then they would do a TOD, and then they would be like, oh my god, Lydia's broken? Holy shit, Lydia's insane. Look at this combo damage. Why does she get so much damage in a situation that's never going to happen in a real game, right? And because that all started off of the 1+2 and Yeet, I think that they nerfed this as a direct response to that, even though it really didn't need to get nerfed. And especially now with the changes to the heat engager situation, there's just no reason, but, you know, the damage got nerfed on that, and it got nerfed on Heaven and Earth 1 for similar reasons. And yeah, it causes Lydia's damage to suffer quite greatly because of that. And you know, I just think that 1+2 is a dead move. I don't think that this move really serves any purpose anymore. It used to be really good for Chip, and it used to be good for mind games in Season 1, and now that Chip damage has been reduced, heat engagers of +9 instead of +17 now, and the damage on it has been substantially nerfed. There's just, like, there's no point to using this move ever. It's way too risky, and it does too little. And then the last thing that got nerfed here as well, quite substantially, is Heaven and Earth 2. Now, this is a nerf I agree with, because this would wall break from round start on Mishima Dojo. And that's ridiculous. Now, what I will say is it's only at 3 stacks, and other characters like Fong and Jin and Heihachi still have that. So I don't understand why those characters still have it, but with Lidia, it needs to get nerfed. I agree with the nerf on Lidia, but frankly, I don't think Jin should have that shit either. I don't think Fong should. I don't think any of them should. You shouldn't be able to get a full combo, and not, like, the problem with it is that you can't play around the wall when they're in heat, right? So you can't utilize your movement to play around the heat smash wall splatting you, because it wall splats from so far. Basically, wherever you are on the stage, if that heat smash hits, you're liable to get full comboed. And I think that's stupid. So it's been 5 months. Lydia's got nerfed. Why hasn't anyone else's? It baffles me why that's the case. Anyway, that's going to be everything for nerfs. Now we'll talk about buffs, and we'll talk about a buff and one thing that I really hate. Let's start with the thing I really hate. Actually, I'm doing this in the other order. The camera zoom on down 1+2 at 30 stacks. I said at the beginning of Season 2 that this needed to go. I still agree. This shit needs to go. This makes execution a lot harder. And if I just give you a similar example here, let's actually start here at 2 stacks. So I'm gonna wall splat, and I'm going to set up for an Oki situation. Let me turn off counter hit and rage too, by the way. Sorry about that. I'm going to set up for a situation here where they're going to wake up, and this is just an easy, repeatable, reliable way to do down 1+2. You can see that down 1+2 on hit is +6. And the significance of that is if I do forward 2 afterwards with a 1-frame link, and it tracks sidestep right. So because of that, for those of you who might not know what I'm saying, what that means is that I have to hit forward, which I can input buffer, but I have to hit forward 2 on the first frame that I recover from the animation to catch sidestep right. If I don't do that, then sidestep right avoids forward 2 and I get launched. So it's very important that I'm able to consistently execute on that so I don't get launched. But the problem is that because of this flavor change in Season 2 to show the move at 3 stacks. Sorry, wrong move. Let me try that again. Now, if I do that same thing where I hit the opponent standing, That's much harder to do because I can't input buffer during that slowdown. So I have to learn 2 different timings for that, and it makes it harder to do it. Okay, so I was going to demonstrate trying to like do this consistently with 2 and 3 stacks. Edit there is because it turns out that she just will refuse to sidestep in this situation. I don't know why. So I guess I can't really demonstrate that. But the point is that it's more inconsistent now for no reason to perform that execution, and that really needs to be reverted. And I don't know why they did that in the first place. Now we're going to come to the bad thing. Horse 3 plus 4. This move is unusable, just straight up. The point of this move, and I still don't think it was good, but the point of this move was that at the wall, when season 2 started, this wall staggered. So the point of this was that because it wall staggered, you were like plus 24 on block or something, you win the wolf, and then you got a true mix up between like wolf 1 and wolf 4. And they had to eat it. Now, I still think that's stupid because sidestep right duck, you know, the normal option select for this beats that. And even just like a sidestep right block without the duck would still get you out of the wall, right? It wouldn't wall stagger at that point if you take a big enough step. And you know, I just don't, I never saw the point. I always thought it was better if you were going to do like forward 4-2 into this garbage, that you were better off just like going into wolf because it realigned with their sidestep, and then you got the mix up anyway because the mental frames cover your transition in the wolf. And if like they try launching you, then like this is a 20 frame move, like you're getting launched anyway. It's a dumb move, but then they made the universal change to the wall stagger thing, and that just rendered this move unusable because its main purpose, which was the wall stagger, is now gone from that universal change, and they just never touched the move again. So I mean, there are so many things in this game that you can point out that are like it's the exact same situation where it's like you have this move, there's this idea behind it, oh shit, that's broken, they change it, they change like whatever it is in the game with the move or something, they dust their hands, and then they never touch it again. Look at Jin's 2-1-4 for example. I don't know why this game is just put together with duct tape and band-aids, but it is, and this is one of those moves that may as well not exist because its original purpose and its main purpose, the whole reason why it was designed, now no longer exists in this game. So it's essentially like taking a move from, say, Tekken 7, you know, let's put it like this. It's like taking a wall bound from Tekken 7 and then putting it in Tekken 8 with the same logic behind the frame down, the damage in the frames, and all of that stuff. In the Tekken 8, when it had all of that in Tekken 7, because it had the wall bounce property to balance it around, but now there's no wall bounce property in Tekken 8, so why does it have those frames? So, that's how I feel about it. It's a garbage move. Terrible. Just dumb. Going on to the changes that I think are meh. And what I mean by meh is it's like, it's not bad. It's not like I hate it, but I just don't see these as being very good overall. And, you know, originally I was going to talk about the one to talk about the most and then move on. I'm going to do this in the opposite order. So I'm going to start with sidestep 2. Yeah, like, I don't know what's going on with this movement. It's like, I see some people use, I don't know why. I didn't know why when season 2 came out, trying to use this move sometimes. I still don't know why this move exists. I don't know what the point is. Because, like, here's the thing. If the opponent, like, crouching blocks here, then you get the 2 guaranteed. If it counter hits... Sorry. If it counter hits here, then you get this guaranteed. But you can also just sidestep in the back 1 and like it does the same thing. But the difference is that this gives you heat engager on normal hit and not counter hit or crouching opponent. So like if you catch the opponent sidestepping, then it hits and it gives you heat engager, where sidestep 2 doesn't. and like it's also -1 on block and puts them in crouch, and them being forced into crouch means nothing because one, you can sidestep while crouching into the foreground background, so sidestep direction doesn't matter, and the way that you beat the stance anyway is down jab most of the time. It's not jab. So like what's the point? I do not understand what the point is. I don't get it. The only positive thing that this really has, with it being -1, is if they try doing a heat burst, then I'm pretty sure here, if I got this right, that the 1 should actually beat it, which is the one little quirk like that. But that's stupid. it's an awful move, and I genuinely don't understand why people use it at all. And it's like, you know, if you do the 3, well, wow, they can't jab you out of it, but they can still do that. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the move is useless. I think that just back 1 is better, and that this move was actually better. I genuinely think this move has been nerfed. I think that this move was actually, as bad as it was, better in Season 1 than it is in Season 2. This move is terrible. Moving on from that, the 4-3 series. Man, they were so close with this. I said it in my video talking about what I want buffed for. Oh, well, I guess it was more about like top buffs for Lidia, but it was changes. I did want 4-3 change because the idea behind this move is cool. And I also talked about, you know, in the same vein, Jesus Christ. My controller is busted. I'm so sorry. I really need to get this fixed. Core circle forward 4, and how this should be +11 instead of +10 on hit. And, you know, they changed it, but they made it so that, like, gives you heat engager guaranteed, and it's, like, plus in the stance on hit and all these things. And it's, like, it's more or less what I asked for. It's just different how it works, but it is in a lot of ways what I kind of wanted from the move. But I mean, like, the problems with this move is such a gimmick. I see Lidia players use this on me a lot. I think a lot of Lidia players believe in this move. First hit being -4 on hit and -11 on block is just dumb. I mean, like, it's the -4 on hit, because the whole point of this move is that if you're out here, you're using this as keep out to fish for counter hit, right? Why in God's name is the move -4? Oh, because then if they take the turn at -4, you have the -12 mid counter hit launcher extension. Excuse me? Like, you have to take so many risks to utilize this thing, and if just the second hit hits because they crouch under the 4, then what? You get a mix-up in Wolf, whoop-de-doo. Cool, you're playing against Jin, he blocks the 4 and he launches you anyway. Like, it's a terrible move. It's so bad. I think that, again, the purpose behind it is really interesting, but it's another one of those things where you're better off just, like, doing back 1 or forward 2, because it accomplishes the exact same thing, but it accomplishes it on normal hit with back 1, and forward 2 on normal hit, you actually get rewarded for the normal hit, whereas if you don't get counter hit, like, it doesn't matter if it gets blocked or not. If it hits and it's normal hit instead of counter hit, like, this is just dead. It doesn't make any sense. And then what is it avoiding? Like, the difference with down 2 is that down 2 crushes high. So if you're out here, then you can counter hit fish off of, like, jab checks or electric or keep out stuff like this by running up down 2. That's great. You can't run up and forward 3 because, 1, you have a forward input on 3 and you have a while running input on 3. So you have to do it while doing this out here, which makes it more telegraphed. It's extremely linear as well, whereas this move tracks to the other sidestep. And then on top of that, it's punishable, and it's -4 on a normal hit, and it's just not accomplishing anything like down 2 is. It's such a poorly thought out sequence, and it's part of that thing that's like, it's a huge knowledge check for Lidia. And I think the reason why I see that is the same reason I see Lidia players throw out like 3-2 randomly for no reason, or hot kick in the heaven and earth. It's purely a gimmick that you use against players that have no idea what they're doing. And I'm telling you, when I play against Lidias and they do forward 3 to me, it's just free damage in my mind. It's completely free. It's awful. It's such a terrible move. And I don't think that it's worth your time or it's worth using at all. It's just so bad. It does work sometimes in some niche situations, but it's god awful. And I guess the odd part I was trying to say too is the one thing it does is it low crushes on frame 6, which is like great if you're playing against Yoshimitsu and he does sword sweep, but that's it. That's the only time you ever use this. Awful, just god awful move. Really bad. And then the last thing to talk about here in the mess section is actually Wolf 4. Wolf 4 is a perplexing move that I was clearly on the mark on when I had my initial Season 2 guide. Hold on, I need my water. I put my bottle of water on. So, back in my Season 2 guide video, Wolf 4 was a perplexing move to me. And it still is. And like, on one hand, I think the move is actually worse than it was in Season 1. But in the context of Season 2, and with all of the changes to chip damage and everything, it's better. It's weird. Let me explain. So, the problem with this move at the beginning of Season 2 is that it was +8 on normal hit. And the issue there was with 1 frame link forward 2, it would beat anything the opponent does, including sidestep, including heat burst. So the opponent had 0 counterplay whatsoever, the forward 2 after Wolf 4 hits. None. And also, of course, if you were in heat and forward 2 hits, so if like they hit literally anything, or if they duck, then you get full combo, or you get mixed from heaven and earth. You get forward 2, heaven and earth 1, as I'll like demonstrate here real quick. Oops. You get this and this guaranteed for 41, and then you get mixed from there. Just absurd. And the problem is that at Enhanced State 3, it knocks down. And something that I have said over and over and over again with this game, when it comes to like the game theory of how Tekken 8 functions, if you can keep the opponent standing at a situation where you're so plus that the opponent doesn't have any counterplay to your mix-up, that is better than knocking them down. In many instances, actually, in this game, I think it's better. Like, I would take a move that does 25 damage and keeps the opponent standing at, like, +6 with Lidia, let's say, than a move that does 32 damage and knocks them down. And the reason why is because you have more defensive options when you're on the ground than when you're standing in this game, which I think is really a testament to how poorly designed this game is. But that's the truth. That's how this game works. A lot of the time, like with, you know, Heaven and Earth mix-up as an example, and this is why I think a lot of people miss the mark on Lidia, because I think that there's just a misunderstanding of like how this game works, and people still think about this game as like Tekken 7, Tag 2, Tekken 6, when Tekken 8 is Tekken 8, and at the end of the day, you'd rather get knocked down than continue standing and B-. But like in this situation, you see where we are in neutral. If I try approaching the opponent and continuing my offensive pressure, they can just like toe kick me, spring kick, all of these things, and reset neutral. They have more defensive options. They can also stay on the ground. They can roll. They have so many different things that they can do while they're on the ground. And if I hit them while they're on the ground, they stay on the ground, then they get knocked away a little bit. As long as there's no wall, they stand up, boom, neutral's reset. And then that's the end of the situation. Whereas I do have them on standing block. If I do have an Earth 2 and I'm +6 here, they can't do anything about that. So I'm just allowed to mix them over and over and over again, and they have no counterplay to this whatsoever. And that is what the case was with Wolf 4. Wolf 4 was better when you had 0 to 2 stacks than when you had 3 stacks. And the intention was for it to be better at 3 stacks. which, again, I think goes to show more than anything how much of a mess this game is and how fundamentally flawed the game is as a whole, because this isn't just the case with Lidia, it's the case with our characters too. Look at Jin's 2-1-4 counter hit change. That, like, 2-1-4 on counter hit, it's now worse on counter hit than it is on normal hit. And that's just ridiculous. But it is the case. And so that's the thing that made this move very perplexing to me, is that it was, and I said this in the video, I feel like it's almost better to just stay at 2 stacks, because back then the chip deletion didn't matter. And because of that, and because Wolf 4 was better at 2 stacks than it was at 3, because of the +8 situation, especially when you're in heat, I really thought, and I still do think, that it was just overall better not being at 3 stacks. Now, I did find that there is Oki at 3 stacks, and that Oki is, if they stand up, you can forward to them. And that's obviously really good in this situation at the wall, because then, like, you get proper Oki, you get from crouch mix up here, and that's all well and good. And then at the wall here, when this knocks down, this is guaranteed. Now, important to know, and let me reset this so I can show you the actual damage on this. The damage is absurd. It's 38 plus 26. Like, that's insane damage for a low. But this was actually the case in Season 1 as well, with a perfectly timed micro dash at every stack level. And so that's the odd thing that makes this confusing as well, is that this move overall is, like, it was intended to be better than it is in Season 1, but when you, like, utilize this move to the fullest in Season 1, it's actually worse in Season 2 than it is in Season 1. And that comes to a head when they realized, whether it was like through my video or what, that, oh yeah, +8 for this actually is ridiculous. So it's +5 now, which I think is a good change. I think that it being +8 is ridiculous. And it's still, the nice thing about being +5 is it still incentivizes one frame link, because one frame link beats everything the opponent can do, including down jab. What it loses to is heat burst and sidestep left. But even if they sidestep right, I've demonstrated this in another video. Let me try doing this. For some reason, when I have my second monitor on, it causes the game to lag, so hopefully it's not too much of an issue here. But with one frame link forward 2, you can see that it tracks sidestep right. So it beats everything the opponent can do with one frame link except for heat burst. And obviously, if you're in heat, if you hit the one frame link, then it's more or less the same as it was before the nerf, where everything beats it. Or it beats everything, sorry, except sidestep left. But if they sidestep left, then you have, like, down forward 2 and stuff. And, you know, you can still do your homing low. So, you know, you still have options, and there's still counterplay there, but it's a hard read, right? You have to have really high execution, and it incentivizes Lidia's ceiling, which is something I really like about her in Season 2. But the opponent still has a counterplay option with a hard read. But if you have a read that they're going to step, you have a read on their read or whatever, then you have other options. You have down forward 2 as an example. You have obviously down back 3 as a low. You have all of these tools at your disposal. So I think that the dynamic between the two players is better with this being +5 instead of +8, and it still incentivizes the execution, which I'm convinced at this point is intentional. They want you to be linking that forward 2. They intend for you to try linking forward 2 in these situations, and this being +5 instead of +6 is what proves that to me as the smoking gun. But yeah, like, the moves are overall worse, and it's worse than it is in Season 1, and the saving grace is that's -14. And yeah, it's like, that's another weird thing too, in that at the beginning I didn't think -14 was good enough, and I still don't, because half the cast can still launch it. You know, Eddie can launch it, or yeah, Jin can launch it, Raven can launch it, Devil Jin can launch it. Now, like, half the characters in this game can still launch punish Wolf 4. So it helps in some matchups, sure, absolutely. But a lot of Lidia's bad matchups, well, I shouldn't say that, but a lot of matchups, it doesn't matter if it's -14 or -15. It's completely irrelevant. And I still agree at the beginning of Season 2 that -14 isn't enough. But the reason for that is because the main way that you were dealing damage was chip, right? So you didn't need these lows to be able to create these opportunities to deal damage to the opponent. Now with the chip damage change, you do. And so my opinion is that the main way that you get the opponent to open up and be scared of anything that you do with Lidia is Wolf 4. It's the only scary low that she has. And without the chip damage as a factor anymore, you have to utilize Wolf 4. I said before, you know, so many people said that Lidia was bottom 5 because she has bad lows. And she doesn't have bad lows, but you have to set up for them, right? It's not like every character, like Ana, for example, where you can just like throw out a low and then it's +6 on hit in the stance or whatever the hell, and the stance counterplay is like skewed towards the attacker and all of this. No, like Lidia has down back 3, and if you sidestep right block, it beats everything that she does except for the -1 on hit low. You know, if you sidestep right duck and she doesn't do 3, you launch her, you know? And because of that, you know, because it makes the character interesting and fun to play. But the problem is, in a game where almost every low in the game doesn't require any setup and it's just plus on hit and leads into all this bullshit, having lows that you have to set up for, mainly the 2 lows that I think are insane with Lidia, from crouch down forward 3 and Wolf 4, mean that Lydia is just slower. Right? And she has to put herself at more risk to create these opportunities. Christ, even Kazuya with Hell Sweep can still do down back 4. And so I think with that context, Wolf 4 needs to be -14. Because it's already a slow low relative to all of the lows in the game. It's already risky, you know, because if you like go into stance here, off of like here, you know, like they can still jab interrupt that, right? You're only +8. This is a 20 frame move, so like they could jab interrupt. If they're playing against a character as G-Clef cannon like Bears or Lars, then they can counter hit launch you, counter hit heat engager you know, stuff like that. So you're putting yourself at that risk. Again, a lot of characters can launch it if they have a hard read. They can hop kick it, and so there's still risk there, but again, I think that a lot of it requires good reads and character knowledge and like interaction, right? And so I think a setup low like this being -14, you know, like I still think that there's something missing here. I think that -13, I agree, would be too much for what it is, but -14, it being able to get launched by so many characters is still dumb. I think that Lidia needs another move in Wolf, like down back 4, for example, that she can utilize for a similar purpose, not giving her as much reward on hit or counter hit, but not get her killed if the opponent is playing Jin or something and they block it and then launch her. Because this is like the only thing she can do. Because now, you know, like if you do this and then go here, you know, now they have to look out for that. Now they have to start saying, oh wait, I can't just sidestep here because I'm gonna open myself up to that. So then they start having to do more stuff, and then that's what can open you up to like this, for example, and you know, like other things that you have. And that's the main way that Lidia like plays the mind game now and plays neutral, and like I shouldn't say plays neutral, but like what she can do when she wins neutral. And with it requiring so much setup, when again almost every other character in the game doesn't, it just feels like out of place and there's something missing, and it just requires a little bit too much, and there's just something that's not there that needs to be addressed. So yeah, anyway, long talk on Wolf 4. The move is very perplexing. I don't know. I don't know why they made it this way. I don't know what is going on, but that's what I think about it. It's a stupidly designed move, but Lidia relies on it, and it's like the cornerstone of everything that she can do is having that move now because chip damage is gone. So, you know, it is what it is. All right. Now, Drake. Moving on to the good moves. So, we're going to start here with simple. Sorry, I need to turn on this. 1, 2, 3. Let me just do this. I don't particularly use this move. You know, I use back 3, 4, 1 plus 2 a lot of times for wall carry, but there are times where a combo goes on so long that you do use 1, 2, 3 for wall conversion. It's nice for that. It's a nice change. 3 plus 4. I think this move is very underappreciated. This move is good. The problem is that it's hard to find the right time to use it because it's so linear, but them fixing the tracking on the second hit makes this move so good to use in neutral against the right opponents in the right situations because it hits from so far away and it leaves you plus 23 in cat, which kind of just opens you up for wolf. Like, no one's going to attack into this. And you can see, even if they step here, that this will still track even if you immediately go in. I don't think it does on the 1. Yeah, it doesn't on the 1. But it does on like the 4 and obviously the 2 and all of this other stuff. So I think this move is very good. And especially, you know, if you're in heat, because even though you can grab Lidia out of heaven and earth here, no one's going to want to attempt, and you can sidestep as well. No one's going to want to attempt that when they're minus 23. You know, it's not a natural thing to do. And even if someone knows the matchup, this move is used so rarely because a lot of people think it's bad when it's actually quite good, that they're not going to know what to do in the situation. Even a good player that really knows his matchup might get hit by this move and then not know what to do. On top of that as well, the pushback on this is quite nice because if the opponent here on block does what is normally the universal punish for like going into heaven and earth, right? So if I do 3 plus 4 here and then I wait. Oh, sorry, I had them do that on crouching. I'm a bit of an idiot. Let me do that again. Down jab will actually whiff, which is very interesting because it means that this move lets you win neutral a little bit more. Because see, if they whiff, then you get back 1 punish. And you just get heat engager off of that. And it also means, too, that, like, if you're already in heat, right? If you do this and go into heaven and earth and they punish it, it's like, well, that sucks. But if you do this and then they do that, then you get back 1 as a launch, as a full launcher, right? Now, of course, I screwed that up, but, you know, like, you get full combo here. Which is obviously really good. Nothing to really scoff at there. So, like, this move is really good and underappreciated, I think. The change that they made to it made it consistent enough where you can really, use this move. And, it also means, too, that, like, your cat mix-up is real, because even though you're 0, if that down jab is whiffing, you know, then, like, they can't actually option select the stance, especially if you're in heat. Unlike what you can do if they like block down 4-2, because obviously you'll block down jab, and that just means that this move is a really strong way to win neutral, especially at long range against characters that struggle at that range, like Oscar, for example. So it's a really good move if you can place it right. Again, the shortcoming is that it's so linear and it's fairly slow at 20 frames that despite the long range and everything, if you have an opponent that's step blocking a lot, you're not really going to have a chance to use this. But if you have someone that's not really doing that at long range, or they're trying to approach or whatever, then this can be a really good move to throw out for, again, the reasons I'm kind of showing here. And then the last good move, Core Circle Forward 4. I said in my video on my top bust for Lidia that I thought they should change Core Circle Forward 4, and they did. They didn't change it in the way that I necessarily wanted them to, but what they did is essentially the same thing. The damage on is a little bit, to give you context, what I wanted was Core Circle Forward 4 on hit to give 2-2 guaranteed instead of 1-2-2, because the mix-up after 1-2-2 is so punishable. Like, if you do, you know, Cat 1, for example, after you can get sidestep and launch, so it's like the reward on that isn't really great when it's already a high move that gets beaten by sidestep duck or jab check, which already beats a lot of Lidia's options. So I said the reward, it doesn't need to be a lot better, but it being a little bit better would be nice. And again, that's kind of what they did, because they gave you that ability. And one of the reasons I said as well is, like, at the wall, having the ability to wall splat would be nice. it does that. But you also get heat engager, which is obviously a big difference, right? So before it would be like 27, and you would get this guaranteed, right? So that'd be a 28. So, you know, it was like, 55 damage, which is obviously a lot. But when you have a game where, like, a lot of homing moves are, like, give you heat engager guaranteed into, like, plus 17 into all this stuff, a homing high that's only plus 1 instead of, like, frame trapping into counter hit launch, like, June, or sorry, counter hit, counter hit, Magic 4, right? Or heat engager or whatever, and, giving it guaranteed on normal, giving heat engager guarantee on normal hit, it giving you damage instead. I felt like it was fine. Maybe the damage could have a little bit of scaling. Maybe the damage on Core Circle 4 could be reduced, whatever. I thought it was fine. And here, I think that it's, you know, it's less damage, but it gives you heat engager. And I think that it's better than it was before. Is it better than my proposal? I don't know. I think it's roughly the same. But the main point here is that I kind of, at the beginning, wrote this move off because of what I mentioned before. You know, it loses the sidestep duck, which Lidia already loses to. It loses the jab check. Like, a lot of Lidia's homing highs just don't really work. And also, the problem with it is kind of the range problem, right? And one of the things I said is that you can do, the Core Circle forward to give it a little bit more range, and then that was going to be important. It's not. You're actually, I tried doing this. It just leaves you way too vulnerable and neutral because it takes so long to do, because you have to do this whole Core Circle forward input, and then you press forward again. And, like, you see how many frames this is taking? This is taking 14, 14, 18, 24, like 25 frames to come out. It's just so slow. And because of that, you know, again, if the opponent just, like, tries counter hitting you or jab checks you, like, you get floated because it's airborne and all this other stuff. And, you know, like, it's taking 25, I should say, it's taking 25 moves for the move, 25 frames for the move to just start coming out. And, oh my god, my broken controller. And then it's taking another 17 for the move to actually, like, hit, right? So it's not a 25 frame move. It's actually a, like a 42 frame move that you're doing effectively. Somewhere around there. And that's obviously way too slow to make use of the extra range. So I don't think that really works. And I don't think it's very good as a homing move either a lot of the time. It is nice against Lily because Lily players just sidestep for no reason and then get hit. But it's a similar problem, right? Where it's like, even if we're not doing that, you know, if I do, I'm gonna lose it. If I do this at full speed, you know, it's a 17 frame move, plus the amount of time it takes me to do Core Circle. And I feel like I do Core Circle fairly quickly. You know, I think I do it at a reasonable pace. This is another 5, 7, 8, 9 frames, right? So this is a homing high that's effectively taking 26 frames to use. And because of that, not only is it super slow, but it also means that, again, step duck is a very easy way to be able to get around this. Obviously, jab check, right? Like, you cannot counter hit the opponent with this move at all. It's impossible. It's just not going to happen. And it leaves you so vulnerable because of the airborne state and all of this other stuff. It's just not practical to use as a homing move, because even despite all of that, like, let's be honest here, a 26 frame homing move, if the opponent even remotely knows how to step block, they're never getting hit by this. And I play against people that, again, know this matchup, and the Core Circle forward 4 will never hit them in a million years, because it's just too slow. It's just too slow if they're step blocking properly. So why is it good then? Like, what's the point of it? The point is you don't use it as a homing move. You just don't. You don't. Even though it's a move with the homing property. The homing property, in my mind, you use it for it's there to make it consistent to hit, right? But you don't use it for the homing property. Instead, what you use it for is punishment, with punishment, and a post sidestep. That's what you use it for. You don't use it to hit a sidestepping opponent. You know, that's what back one's for, right? That's what down forward 1's for. That's what down 2. That's what all of these moves are for. Like, you're not using this move for its homing property. You're not using it to catch an opponent. The homing property is simply there so it will not whiff on a sidestepping opponent. That's it. Which I know might sound weird and foreign, but listen, as someone that plays Soul Calibur and half of a character's move list is homing because they're horizontals and they're effectively the same move as this. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. You know, like when I'm using a 26 frame A in Soul Calibur, I'm not using it to catch a sidestepping opponent. You know, I'm using it as a move as opposed to a vertical that will get sidestepped as a move that will not get sidestepped. There's a distinction there, right? So you're not using the move to catch an opponent sidestepping. You're using it because the opponent cannot sidestep it. Does that make sense? So, again, this might sound like a weird concept, but that's basically what you do. So, when you're out here, right? And let's kind of use the This is going to be a little bit tough to demonstrate, so let me see if I can do it real quick. Let's just say that the opponent, like, does this. Core circle forward 4. That's a whiff punish, right? Again, a very slow whiff punish. But if it works, if you have the timing right and everything, then it can work very well. You know, if you want to throw it out just for pressure, again, it's a move that the opponent cannot sidestep. So if they're not jab checking you, if they're not ducking, you're not using this move necessarily to like catch a sidestepping opponent, but you're using it instead of forward 2 here for the simple reason that if you like, obviously forward 2 can, sorry, I have this wrong, can catch a sidestepping opponent. Let me have them, let me have them step here. See, it catches a sidestepping opponent, but if I'm wrong on it, right? But if I do core circle forward 4, it's the exact same thing as forward 2, but the opponent can't step it, right? So as long as they're not like step ducking or jab checking you or anything like that, it can be a good way to do forward 2 without getting sidestepped. Obviously, it's the same thing but different counterplay. But then the other thing that you can do as well is that you can buffer the core circle input with sidestep. Again, this is a Soul Calibur thing, but what you can do is you can have the opponent punish here, right? So let's say that my opponent does like a back 1, you know, so something that I can sidestep. You know what I can do here? I can do that. And now all of a sudden, that's the purpose of this move, right? So the purpose of this move is that this is a great option to do post sidestep. This is essentially like if you play like, I don't know, Paul, for example, and do like sidestep down forward 2, you know, sidestep launcher. It's similar to that because since you can buff that sidestep, now you see how the down input here is what takes up the majority of the frames. The down forward input takes 3 in total here. 1 frame of down forward, 1 frame of forward, and then because I didn't hit the 4 on the exact same frame as forward, that's a 3rd frame. Maybe it's going to take 4 or 5 frames, but you're essentially using this as a whiff punish post sidestep as like a 21, 22 frame move. And that's a hell of a lot better than it being like a 27 frame move out in neutral, right? When you're trying to catch an opponent who's sidestepping and step guarding. Obviously, that's a lot better. And also, because on normal hit, this gives you heat engager. And it puts you in heaven and earth because it gives you an olive horse too. That's very good. So that's how I've been using this move. That's why I find this move to be effective is specifically after sidestepping. And it does mean, in my opinion, that in the mirror match, Lidia is stronger on player 1 side than player 2 side. I wouldn't quite say it's like a 6-4 matchup, but I think it's significant enough. I think it's 5.5 to 4.5 for the player 1 Lidia because it's about being able to sidestep into the background, right? It's about being able to press the down button. It's not the direction. It's about being able to press the down button and then do that. So if you're on player one side and you're playing in tournament and you're playing against a character that's weak to sidestep right, so say like, again, Lidia, Jin, any of these characters, you want to be on player one side because you're stronger on player one side than player two side. If you're playing character that's weak to sidestep left, so say like Mishima's right, say Kazuya for example, then you want to be on player two side because pressing down to input buffer that core circle forward 4 will cause you to sidestep left. So depending on the character that you're playing against, Lidia is going to be stronger on player one side or player two side, which means it's important that you are able to play on both sides just as well. You should be able to play on both sides equally as strong if you want to play Lidia in tournament, if you want to play Lidia competitively. And this also means as well, depending on like what characters you might see online or what characters are the most frequent, you might want to opt to play on player two side when playing online if the top characters or the most played characters are predominantly characters you want to sidestep left, because you're going to more often than be in on the favorable side if you're more frequently playing against those characters that are weak to sidestep left as opposed to sidestep right. So that's going to do it for the good moves. Now let's move on to the great moves. And again, I think we're just going to start small and then work our way up. So let's start with the cat changes to 1 and 1+2. Really easy thing to start out with. A lot of people have been confused about what this change means. Basically, what they did is that they made this safe, which I think was needed, frankly. I think that this being minus, what was it, 10 or 11? I think it was minus 11. Made this like unusable. There was just no reason to ever use this. And this being minus 9 felt bad, especially when they could sidestep launch. Now, here's the difference if you don't know. The difference is that now, because of the increased pushback and this being minus 4, it means you can move around in the same way that you can after down 2 hits. So that means that if the opponent tries taking their turn, so let's just say we punish here. You see that? You couldn't do that before in Season 1 with the 2. And so, problem though, is that on hit, this knocks down, right? And if you were here before and not skipping in the timestamps, and if you are, I completely understand, this is a long video. The problem is that against like any character in the game, you have more defensive options when you're on the ground than when you're standing, right? So the thing is that if it ends up hitting, like you're not getting anything. Neutral is effectively reset at this point. But if 1+2 hits, then you get a mix-up out of Wolf at +27. And of course, when you're in heat as well, that also means that you get this guaranteed. And then you can do that whole sequence guaranteed. The opponent, unless they have a 3-frame parry, has no way to be able to stop that. So let me just demonstrate that again with them actually blocking here this time. Boop, boop, boop. All of that's guaranteed when you're in heat, right? So you get the damage off the 1+2, you get that chip damage, and they lose 45 HP in total. Not bad. And then this being, but the caveat here, the drawback, is that because this is -9 and you're in stance, if this is blocked, they get a free mix-up on you now. So you use this move as either I'm going to mix you or you're going to mix me. But because you control the situation and the timing and everything, obviously you're more likely to hit this if you're throwing it out, right? Or you have more opportunities to be able to create that opportunity because you're in control of the situation. You know what I'm trying to say. So overall, that's a great change. It makes Cat 1, like the cat stance, a lot better. It makes everything make a lot more sense. It also makes manual transition the cat a lot more interesting too, because now if you manually transition the cat into 1, you don't lose your turn, right? So this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, especially at the wall, because now still get to move around, can backdash out of attacks, can sidestep various directions, and that also means that you can sneak in a Cat 4 here and then threaten with Wolf mix-up, and then if you're at the wall, you can do something like this, and then, again, just like, oh my god, and then just play the mental game, right? And, like, again, it adds to Lidia's ability to mix up the opponent, play mind games, get them to attack into her. I think that's all really good, and I've been especially recently using manual cat a lot more, and I think it's legitimately really good, and a big reason for that is because of the change to cat 1. Next, back 3, 4, 1 plus 2. So the change that they made here was that they made damage incremental based on having an earth level, and this is really good. I already thought this was good as a whiff punish, but 53 damage as a whiff punish with Blue Spark is pretty damn good. And one of the main reasons too is because Lidia kind of suffers with range. Like if she's out here and the opponent whiffs, she can't really whiff punish. And this is a problem that she's had since Tekken 7, you know? And if, like we talked about with Core Circle 4 and 4, you could do this, but it ends up coming out so damn slow that you can't really do it reliably. So in my opinion, Lidia's most reliable whiff punish is back 3, 4, 4, super forward, 1 plus 2 at these ranges. And so buffing the damage on that is really nice because it helps incentivize Lidia's neutral game, and it helps it out a bit. It's not like huge because this was already doing, God, I don't remember how much damage, but it was in like the mid to high 40s. So it's like off the top of my head, like a 6, 7 damage increase, but you know, that adds up and it's nice. So, that's good. I think it's a really good change. Down back 4. This move is very underrated. So you might hear down back 4 and be like, what the hell is Seth talking about? Down back 4 is a great buff. Down back 4 hits grounded opponents now. And that was a change in Season 2. When I first looked at it, I'm like, oh my god, this move is great. And I was correct. This move, sorry, I have to set them to not stand up. This move is very good because now, let's say that we do a wall combo, right? Boop, 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 boop. Go here. Now what we can do, micro dash down back 4. It only does 7 damage, but if the opponent continues to stay down, boom, down 1 plus 2. If the opponent wakes up, it's a minus 13 low and they can't retaliate. So if we also have them side roll here, and let's also send them to Kemi because I can't remember which is which. I can never remember which is which. So we do this, boop, boop, go here, right, do our combo, and then micro dash down back 4. You see that? And so it allows us to be able to get this Oki that is not going to get us launch punish like if we do down back 3 while still hitting the opponent while they're on the ground, as long as we dash into it. And that is very good. And it also means that, you know, people complain like, oh, this is a 22 frame move. It doesn't matter because if you're using it in this Oki scenario, it can't really interrupt it for being 22 frames. It makes this move fantastic in these situations at the wall to just help a little bit with Lidia's Oki, especially if you don't want to overcommit. And, you know, like that also means as well, you have options, right? So if you want to commit to the big low, you can. If you want to commit to a small low because they have less health and you're playing against, again, say like, I don't know, Jin or something, you don't want to do down 2, you can do down back 4 instead. Boom, it hits on the ground. If they stay on the ground, they stand up, it hits them while standing up. It's a great change. Very underutilized move, very underappreciated. It's a great move. You should be using it more. Speaking of consistency things, Heat Smash. Heat Smash, Heat Smash, Heat Smash. Heat Smash now gives you a stack when it hits, and this is fantastic. I saw a lot of people complaining about this because they were like, no, but now we don't have to make decisions when doing our combos to go in to get our stack or not. No. Okay, first off, people are saying that weren't trying to get the stacks anyway, so shut up. Second thing is that that's not true. It actually, you still have to make that choice because if we do, but let's say we do this, boop, boop, and then we go to the wall. Now we heat smashing at our stack. That's not something we could have done in Season 1. We couldn't have. And if that would kill the opponent, that's not something we could do. And on top of that, we can do this as well. Again, not something we could have done as a combo in Season 1. What we would have had to do is something like this. You know, and again, just to give an idea, but this whole heat smash thing to give a stack just gives more consistency to being able to get that. And I think it's a good change to be able to have that consistency. Again, speaking of consistency, they changed 1+2 and while running 1 to go into Heaven and Earth when the move would use the rest of your heat. Which, again, I think is a really good change. And it's not good on 1+2, because, again, 1+2 is a useless move now. But off of while running 1 in particular, being able to do it, like, here, and then go into Heaven and Earth, and again, more consistently, not only get that stack, but be able to actually utilize while running 1, have a use for your heat when you have that much heat left outside of only being able to heat smash. Good change. Also, another thing I want to point out about the heat smash as well, there were some times where heat smash was actually better for you on block than it was on hit because of the stack thing, and that's gone now. And again, that's just bad gameplay design if a move is better on block than it is on hit, so that just normalizes it. So that's another thing I want to point out. But yeah, while running 1 change, really good. And now, we're going to talk about the 2 elephants in the room. And we're going to start with Horse 3 because I have more positive things to say about it. Now, Horse 3 has had a lot of implications. So before, you would do Horse 3, 21 damage, forward 1+2 was guaranteed off of the same situation as, say this. So it was an extra 20 damage, right? So it was 41 damage. Now what you're getting is 48. And so it's a 7 damage increase on top of your heat engager with Political Storm. Obviously very good. On top of that too, you know, this wall splat before, it's still wall splats, right? And it does more damage. So we could do this, boop, 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 boop. Just do that, you know, 73. Really good stuff. A lot of damage. Thing is, that I think I under-evaluated this at the beginning. I was like, yeah, it's 7 more damage, but the heat engager, like, doesn't matter that much. And I think I really under-evaluated this, and I don't know why I under-evaluated it so much, but getting that heat engager off of this has changed my entire like dynamic in how I defend against Lidia. Now instead of doing step duck, I a lot of the time just step block. And still muscle memory will have me step duck sometimes, but a lot of the time I'll just step block now because a lot of people throw this out more often, and it is scary. I think the main reason why I said it's not that good is because of the risk of getting floated after Horse 3, which I still think is true. I think it's a not very polarizing move where it's like it gives you a lot of reward, but when you get hit by it, it feels bad. But then when you get swatted out of it by a jab, it feels bad. And it's just like, I don't know. I think that this is one of those moves that needs to be reevaluated because I kind of don't like the dynamic behind it. I don't think it's like busted. I think it's extremely good, but at the end of the day, Lidia doesn't have a mix-up, right? So the only out of Horse, you know, if you think that this is a mix-up, then I'm sorry, but you're bad at the game. So, yes, even the pros that say that and the content creators, I don't care. You're just bad at the matchup. It's true. I'm not even sorry about it. Not at this point. But, you know, regardless of that, it's still just like it feels bad in every single way how this move functions. But I think it, in some ways, is kind of necessary, especially with the speed at which characters are at and the buffs they got and all of this other stuff. So it's like I don't like it. I don't like the way that this move, the dynamic of this move. I don't like the way it works. I don't like how the risk reward is evaluated. I'm not a fan of it. I think that this needs to be reevaluated, or this entire like concept behind how the 3 works needs to be reevaluated. I just don't think it's I don't like it. I personally do not like how this move works. What I do like though is it being plus 14. Oops, sorry. Because it gives you full combo here. Oh my god. My second monitor, man. It gives you one more time. 3rd time's the charm. I'm going to fuck fucking lose it, dude. I hate playing this game with my second monitor on. Murray, why does my game perform worse when I have 2 monitors on instead of 1? I'm about to turn off my Okay, let's try this again. See? Jesus Christ. Anyway. Dude. What? I need to replace this controller. I swear to God. Like, this entire video has just been dropping inputs because my controller is broken. I need to fix it so bad. Why? Anyway, I'd like that because, again, it's another thing that incentivizes Lidia's execution. Skill ceiling, I like that stuff. I think it's really cool they made that plus 14. That's like the one thing I like about this move, but yeah, it's I don't know. I don't really like it. And now, onto a change I really don't like. Why? This is a great change. This is one of Lidia's biggest buffs. And this is just dumb. For context, towards the end of Season 1, I actually started using this move. Back when it was minus 14, you couldn't charge it. Because you could still hit confirm. Oh my God. You could still hit confirm. It's 3 a.m. and it's been an hour and a half recording. Cut me some slack. I was using this move in Season 1 because this move tracks sidestep both directions. Not against all characters, but against most characters at +6. You see? And you could hit confirm it without the charge because of how much you could delay this. So, I was already using this move and already thought it was good. And then they made it minus 12 and they gave it a charge. Now, I think if they made it minus 12, I think that would have been good. I think if they kept it exactly the same, made minus 12 instead of minus 14, I would have been on board. Good change. That makes sense. But instead now, you can delay it. You can charge it. You can hit confirm it still. And unblock if they don't sidestep it here. It's the same as Horse 4. Now, granted, that means that they can still power crush through all of your mids and wolves, so it's not like the best thing ever. But it's still like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's another one of those things that's perplexing to me, why they changed it this way. Like, why do we have essentially Horse 4 in neutral? I don't know. I think the real issue to me is that the move is counterintuitive to punish. Because so many people, even though it's been 5 months, are still attacking into this when you just sidestep it, right? The proper counterplay to this move is not to like jab into it or anything, which I've even had people tell me that, like, just the other day I had someone tell me to my face that's how they deal with it, and that's not correct. You sidestep it, even at half charge. Sorry, that was not half charge. Even half charge. See, I didn't fully charge it, and you can still sidestep it. If I delay it, you can still sidestep it. And so that means that the counter hit launch property of this just doesn't exist. If, again, someone knows how to actually deal with this move properly, because you're never attacking into this. The only reason you're attacking into this is if someone's doing only the first hit and it's minus 12, but no one's doing that. No one's only doing the first hit because no one's sidestepping this. Everyone's attacking into it. And, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I think the move is balanced and the move is fine, you know, like your risk of getting launch punished even if you only half charge it. The uncharged version is minus 12 on block. The counter hit launch property is never going to happen against someone who actually knows the matchup. Even if it does get blocked through all of that, through the risk of getting launched multiple times, whether they sidestep the first hit or the second hit, they can still power crush through all of the mids. The low, obviously, characters at 14 frame launches can still launch it. Anyone can hop kick it if they have a read that you're going to do the low. So there's just like so much counterplay to the move, but it's so counterintuitive. And this is one of those where I don't even blame players for like not understanding how to deal with this. Like, I will on 3-2, obviously. I will on hopkick in the heaven and earth, obviously. Like, if you're telling me that's unpunishable, then you have a complete you don't know how to play this game because you don't know what down jab is. But I can understand with Red Poppy because, you know, like it just feels counterintuitive to step this in a lot of ways. So, like, I don't know. It's a weird one because I think that the move is balanced. I think the move is really good, and I think it's a decent move to use. But against like that 0.1% of players that are actually going to stop this, it's not that good. So it's weird. It's a really weird move where it's simultaneously like amazing and awful. It's amazing because no one knows how to deal with this. Everyone's still attacking into it, so you're just getting counter hit launches all day. But it's terrible because if you play against someone that actually knows, like, should be stepping this instead of attacking into it, then the risk reward on the move is so bad that it's not worth using outside of, again, those situations where you're plus and you're trying to use it for the tracking property. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. And then last thing, we're going to come full circle here on this video. The level 3 changes with forward 4-3, down back 3 on counter hit, and the 1+2 throw. So let's start with an easy one, the 1+2 throw. You know, like, the main thing that makes the 1+2 throw good is as a punish to Power Crush, right? So, you know, if I have the opponent here do a punish, and I set them to do Power Crush here, and I'm at 3 stacks, and I block this, you know, I could do 2, obviously, for 28, or 50 damage and delete gray health. It's huge, right? It helps Lidia out a lot in neutral, and that's one of the most important aspects of Lidia is her neutral game, right? Lidia's neutral, as I've said since season 1, is really strong, but there have definitely been a couple of components that are missing, and buffing things like back 3-4 and now her grab to punish. Dude, I swear to God, this controller is trying to mess with me. 1 frame, really? But yeah, being able to punish Power Crush like that too is really nice. Down back 3, you know, this on counter hit now, deleting gray health is another one of those things where, it's like I said in the initial video, it's really nice to have because it gives Lidia a good counter hit fishing tool, that gets better over time, right? And it makes the risk reward on, dude, it makes the risk reward on down back 3. I'm gonna hit my controller and hope that helps something. Oh my God, I think it did. Nope, it didn't. Look at that. A lot more reasonable, I suppose. And I like that a lot. And then, of course, to change the forward 4-3. And the thing with forward 4-3 is that, of course, it can only be used in combos. And on top of that, if you're like at the wall here and you do this is very high execution. This took me a little bit to be able to do consistently. It's not easy to just do that all the time in a real match. It looks like it is, but because it's on a forward input and it has a pretty tight window, it is execution reliant. And even like if we do a combo out here, you know, if I do something to convert to the wall, dear God, I don't have a combo plan, so hopefully this is just going to be fine. Wow. Maybe I should just do Polarizing too. But you see how I have to do like a proper like delayed forward 4-2, which requires timing, you know? If I do an instant forward 4-2, then it's gonna whiff. And if I do it too late, then I get forward 4. And then if the opponent like slumps down on the wall too much, if I do this late, they tech roll and then I get launched, you know? So it's, even though, yeah, it shits out a lot of damage, there are a lot of situations where it requires a high execution, which is something that I like. Lidia's execution is subtle, but it's there, and it's prevalent in, like, every aspect of her gameplay, and it's something that I quite like about her, and I think it's cool that they're intentionally adding to that in so many different aspects of her game plan. And it's now to a point where she's definitely one of the highest execution characters in the game, easily, because she relies on execution everywhere now, including her combos. Whereas before, it was mainly just a neutral with the forward 4-2, but now it's with, like, forward 4-3 as well, and I think that's neat. But the main thing about this is that all of this stuff relies on your opponent making a mistake, right? So, like, the 1+2 grab, you know, that's only going to happen if they power crush or it's counter hit, right? And, you know, that's something I didn't talk about, but the counter hit, being counter hit grab as well and giving you that as, like, a Magic 4 option is nice, considering her Magic 4 here is unusable garbage. Down back 3 is only on counter hit, you know, so it requires the opponent to hit a button. And, of course, the forward 4-3 only hits an opponent that gets launched, and all of Lidia's launchers are launch punish, or not launch punishable, but are punishable, right? Lidia doesn't have, like, Jin's forward 4. Lidia doesn't have safe counter hit launchers. She doesn't. She has to use 3-2. She has to use While Rising 2. She has to use Hot Kick. And even, like, her counter hit launches, like While Rising 3, -12 on block. Down forward, well, not that one. Down forward 1-3, -13 on block, right? All of these moves that have counter hit launching properties are punishable, right? She doesn't have safe counter hit launching moves. She just doesn't. And because of that, everything that's happening here with the 3 stacks and deleting gray health requires the opponent to make a mistake. Which again means that your neutral and your fundamentals have to be super solid to make the most out of these moves. Despite what some misinformed, ignorant, willfully ignorant people will tell you about Lidia, she's not brain dead, you know? Like, if you want to be able to use her at the highest level and use all of these things to their fullest extent, you have to be really solid with Tekken. I think that Lidia is one of the most premier examples of an old school Tekken-esque character in Tekken 8. And it's for reasons like this. It's for how she plays neutral, interact with the opponent, execution requirement, all of this stuff. And like the mind games that goes into everything. Like, that's how it was back in the old days of Tekken. And that's how it is with Lidia. And I think it's one of the reasons why I thoroughly enjoy playing this character. And she's pretty much the only character that I do enjoy playing. And all of the Season 2 changes, I think, have only exemplified that. And I think that we, as Lidia players, got off really well with Season 2. I think that they've done an absolutely fantastic job with the character overall. I like the majority of these changes. I think that there are some things that are misses, and even though I think Lidia is overall weaker than she was in Season 1, I think she's more fun and more interesting to play, and I think that they've really emphasized her skill ceiling instead of her skill floor, like they did with a lot of characters in Season 2, and I think that's great. I think that's really cool, and I'm really happy with the direction that they have taken Lidia. So those are my thoughts on Lidia. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And here's hoping that when Season 3 comes around in about 6 months, that they just continue to expand on what they did with Lidia in Season 2. And Michael Murray heeds my words. Here's what I had to say about Lidia, and continues down this path that they've done with her. Maybe I made a butterfly flap its wings, and now Lydia's just going to get a hell sweep out of horse dance. Oh, Jesus God, please no. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it informative. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.